Welcome to the Part S channel. Today we explain Prophets Judges, Chapter 1 in a clear and simple way, step by step. We are really looking at an absolutely monumental turning point in ancient history right here. The great leader, Joshua, is gone, and the people of Israel are standing right on the edge of a completely new era. So what happens when that centralized command just disappears? Well, suddenly it's up to the individual tribes to secure their own future in the land they've been promised. It's a truly fascinating, intricate study of early human warfare, tribal alliances, and, honestly, the profound struggle to actually complete a divine mission.
Okay, let's dive into this right where the chapter begins. In verse 1, we read, "Now it came about after the death of Joshua that the sons of Israel inquired of the Lord, saying, 'Who shall go up first for us against the Canaanites to fight against them?'" Think about this for a second. Joshua's death has created a massive leadership vacuum. Literally for decades, the Israelites had one clear, divinely appointed commander calling all the shots. And now they are fragmented into their individual tribes, just looking out at all these unconquered territories before them. It's interesting. They aren't asking for a new single king right now. Instead, they're practically asking which specific tribe should take the vanguard and lead the charge. So we have a really clear roadmap for this explainer. We're going to break the chapter down chronologically. Life after Joshua's death, Judah and Simeon's campaign, incomplete conquests, clarifying the text, practical life lessons, and a final chapter 1 recap.
Let's start with Section 1, Life After Joshua's Death. The narrative kicks off with a critical transition of power, addressing that immediate leadership void.
Let's look at exactly how this power transition unfolds over in verse 2. The Lord answers the people's question with a very direct command. Judah is to go, I have given the land into their hands. This is huge. The tribe of Judah is designated to lead the charge. They're given the divine green light along with the promise of success. But the immediate sense of cooperation we see next in verse 3 is just brilliant. Judah doesn't just, charge in completely alone. They turn to their brother tribe, Simeon, and they make a highly practical, tactical alliance. The men of Judah say, "Come up with us into the territory allotted to us to fight against the Canaanites. We in turn will go with you into yours." And if you look at a map, Simeon's allotted land was geographically an enclave, just entirely surrounded by Judah's territory. So this was a really logical military strategy. Simeon agrees, and the two tribes march out together.
Moving on to Section 2, Judah and Simeon's campaign. This powerful new alliance kicks off a series of sweeping initial military triumphs against the Canaanite and Perizzite populations.
Let's trace how this builds geographically across verses 4 through 18, going step by step. It is an incredible wave of momentum. First up, in verse 4, Judah attacks, and they have a massive, decisive victory. They strike down 10,000 men at a place called Bezek. Then, skipping just slightly ahead to verse 8, the text tells us they attacked Jerusalem, captured it, put it to the sword, and literally set it on fire. Following that, in verse 9, Judah moves geographically downward to fight the Canaanites living in the hill country, the Negev, and the western foothills. By verse 10, they march against the Canaanites in Hebron, and they actually defeat 3 specific giants, Shishai, Ahiman, and Talmai. We also get a really fascinating historical detail in verse 16. The descendants of Moses' father-in-law, the Kenites, traveled up from the city of Palms, which we know as Jericho, to settle right there with the people of Judah in the Negev of Arad. By verse 17, the momentum continues. Judah and Simeon totally destroy the city of Zaphath, devoting it to complete destruction and renaming it Hormah. And really, the campaign reaches its absolute peak in verse 18, when Judah pushes all the way out to the coast, taking major Philistine stronghold cities, Gaza, Ashkelon, and Ekron, along with all their surrounding territories.
Now, we actually need to rewind slightly to verses 5 through 7, because the text pauses that whole campaign summary to factually recount a very specific, brutal, ancient punishment that happened back at Bezek. They capture the local king, Adoni-Bezek. When he tries to flee, they catch him and literally cut off his thumbs and his big toes. Now, in the ancient world, this was highly calculated. It specifically prevented a warrior from ever gripping a sword again or running steadily into battle. It meant complete neutralization. But what's absolutely fascinating here is Adoni-Bezek's own reaction in verse 7. He actually notes the deep irony of his fate. He states, 70 kings with their thumbs and big toes cut off have picked up scraps under my table. Now God has paid me back for what I did to them. He instantly recognizes the strict measure-for-measure justice, what we call the lex talionis, of the situation, right before he's taken to Jerusalem where he ultimately dies.
All right, Section 3,
incomplete conquests and compromise, and this is exactly where that seemingly unstoppable momentum suddenly stalls out, starting in verse 19.
The contrast here brilliantly illustrates the primary turning point of the entire chapter. The text in verse 19 says plainly, "The Lord was with the men of Judah, and they took possession of the hill country, but," and this is a massive historical but, "they were unable to drive the people from the plains." Why? Well, because the inhabitants possessed advanced military technology. They had iron chariots. Despite having divine backing, the fear of this superior weaponry just caused Judah to completely stall out. They stayed up in the safety of the hills and left the plains totally unconquered. This introduces human fear right into the middle of a divine mission.
And sadly, this begins a cascading series of compromises for the rest of the tribes, meticulously documented step by step from verse 21 all the way to verse 36. We really cannot skip this, it's practically a ledger of failures. In verse 21, Benjamin fails to dislodge the Jebusites from Jerusalem, choosing to just live alongside them. Then, in verses 27 and 28, we look at Manasseh. They do not drive out the inhabitants of Beth-shan, Taanach, Dor, Ibleam, or Megiddo. The text notes the Canaanites were simply determined to live in that land. And when Israel eventually became stronger, instead of driving them out as instructed, they pressed them into forced labor. It was economically convenient for them. Moving right along to verse 29, Ephraim does the exact same thing in Gezer, just living among the Canaanites. In verse 30, Zebulun subjects the inhabitants of Kitron and Nahalal to forced labor. Verses 31 and 32 are particularly shocking. Asher did not drive out the people of Akko, Sidon, or several other cities. The text crucially phrases it that Asher lived among the Canaanites. That implies Asher was actually the minority in their own allotted land. Verse 33 tells us Naphtali also lived among the Canaanites, subjecting them to forced labor. Finally, look at the tribe of Dan in verses 34 through 36. It's the ultimate reversal. The Amorites actively confined the Danites to the hill country, completely preventing them from even coming down into the plain. The Amorites persisted in Mount Heres, Ajalon, and Shalabim until the house of Joseph eventually grew strong enough to subject them to forced labor. Across the board, we see full victory traded away for convenience and compromise.
Section 4. Clarifying the text. To keep things simple and ensure we understand the plain meaning, let's pause to clarify a few ancient geographical names and side events detailed in the chapter.
As we review verses 10 through 15 and also verse 20, the text gives us the historical layers of city names so the ancient reader knew exactly where the action was happening. For example, Hebron was formerly known as Kiriath Arba. Debir was formerly known as Kiriath Sefer. The text details a famous, older event right here to explain the land ownership. Caleb is officially given Hebron, and he drives out the 3 sons of Anak. He then offers his daughter Aksa in marriage to whoever can successfully capture the nearby city of Debir. A warrior named Othniel captures it and wins her hand. Then, in a very practical, everyday ancient real estate transaction, Aksa asks her father for field springs, ensuring they have both the upper and lower springs of water for their newly acquired, very arid land.
Later in the text, we also see the city of Bethel, which used to be called Luz. Verses 22 through 26 give us a completely fascinating tactical story about this city. The house of Joseph goes to attack Bethel, and the Lord is with them. They send out spies who spot a man coming out of the city. So they make a deal with him. Show us how to get into the city, and we will treat you well. It's pure ancient military espionage. The informant shows them the secret, likely undefended entrance, allowing the house of Joseph to put the entire city to the sword. But, true to their word, they spare the informant and his entire family. The man then packs up, travels up to the land of the Hittites, builds a brand new city and names it Luz, essentially keeping the old name of his hometown alive in a completely different region.
Section 5. Practical Life Lessons. Now that we've walked step by step through the chronological events and the plain meaning of every verse, what practical takeaways can we draw from this ancient history to improve ourselves today?
First off, we absolutely must learn to follow through on our goals. Judah and Simeon started incredibly strong with real divine backing, but that momentum eventually died out. Second, beware of settling for compromises. The tribes found it far easier and honestly far more economically profitable to subject the Canaanites to forced labor rather than doing the hard, disciplined work of driving them out completely. Convenience totally eroded their actual mission. And third, don't let technological fears override your purpose. Judah stopped cold because they saw iron chariots. We all face iron chariots in our own lives, obstacles that look way too advanced, too intimidating, or too deeply entrenched to ever defeat. But letting fear stop your momentum leads to a lifetime of living with the enemy right next door.
Section 6, Chapter 1 Recap.
let's lock in everything we've just learned about this foundational chapter.
We watched the narrative shift so dramatically today. It began with the people relying strictly on divine guidance, asking who should go first into that huge void left by Joshua. This brought immediate success and brotherly unity to Judah and Simeon. But then, human fear and compromise just crept right in. The advanced technology of iron chariots halted their progress in the plains, and from there, we witnessed a total domino effect. One by one, from Benjamin all the way down to Dan, the other Israelite tribes failed to execute their mission. They chose the easy route, cohabitating with the people they were supposed to dislodge and settling for forced labor instead of pursuing total victory.
This chapter serves as a truly stark historical warning. It leaves us wondering about the long-term consequences of these incomplete conquests. Will this early habit of compromise come back to haunt them later? As we'll see as we continue through the book, the choices made right here in Chapter 1 echo for generations. Thank you for learning with us. If this helped you understand the chapter better, like, subscribe, and join us for the next chapter.